Welcome to another Velocity Juice podcast. I'm Flavia.
And I'm Delilah. So, Oli, it's great to have you here. It'll be amazing if you could tell us a bit more about your background and how you came about starting DRTY.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
So I started my career at DRTY, which is, I think it's the biggest spirits business in the world now. So quite, big conglomerate, and joined the kind of graduate scheme there. I always wanted to get involved in drinks. There's a funny story where my dad, he's a big fan of whiskey, and when I was born, he actually put a drop of Lagavulin, which is like quite a well-known single malt whiskey, into a glass of water, dipped his little finger in, and as a newborn, that was apparently the first drink that I'd drank.
Hopefully not in hospital.
I'm not sure. He's known to do some strange things, but yeah, so it was always something that has stuck with me. And actually, Lagavulin was a Diageo brand, so I kind of always wanted to get into the kind of drinks industry. So I worked there, and but I always kind of had the entrepreneurial itch, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And did kind of a bunch of jobs there. My last job, I was a brand manager on Smirnoff, which is obviously a big vodka brand. And one of the brands under my remit was Smirnoff Ice, which is obviously a product a lot of people know well, and it was a little bit neglected. Obviously, it had its time a little bit, but something I quite liked about the idea of a product that was quite, it wasn't too discerning. It just tasted great, and it was fun, and so I was kind of thinking, and it was doing really well commercially, growing quite quickly. So, I was thinking about that, and I was on holiday in America. Probably now about 4 years ago, actually 5 years ago, probably now the years go by quite quickly. And discovered this kind of new sort of drink called hard seltzer. A couple of brands have popped up in the US, and hard seltzer is essentially alcoholic sparkling water. So quite a new concept, and I just thought it was great. It was delicious, it was refreshing, but it was like a little bit ridiculous as well, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
And that's where the genesis was. And then
I do have a question around whether the hard seltzer is something that is just very recent, or has it existed forever? It's just now it's becoming a vogue thing,
because it's very popular now.
It is really young still. So in the US, the first brand was created around 2014, 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, that's not a long time ago.
Yeah, I guess in the context of
whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey or wine, or those categories. It's been around a very short amount of time, but the growth in the US has been like really quick. And between 2015 and like present day, it grew from 0 to sort of 5 billion in sales in the US.
Wow, that
so
is
it's a very
impressive.
explosive emergence.
And how many competitors or how many brands are in the US market?
Now there's quite a lot in the US. It's a very competitive market out there.
How about Europe and the UK?
Yeah, so when it's getting more competitive over here. When we launched, we were like, there was 2 brands in the market. That was 2019, kind of early 2020. But now there's quite a lot. There's probably 20 or 30.
Yeah, and how do you then distinguish yourself from other competitors? Yeah,
well, I think the drinks, the drinks industry is a consumer industry. It's products, and brand is the key differentiator really in our industry. And yes, it's about having a quality product and a flavor that, people like and want to keep buying. But it's also about that emotional connection that you build with people, and that's about visual feel. People like the look of something. They like the feel of the brand. They like the tone of voice, how you act, sustainability credentials. So like that brand piece is
and then zero calories as well.
Yeah, well, we're not 0 calorie, but we're 0 sugar.
Oh, 0 sugar. Sorry. Okay.
So very low in calorie and 0 sugar.
Okay.
I think if it was 0 calories, it would be the hardest thing for women in a market.
It's not impossible.
Well, yeah. There's in all seriousness, there's one of the things that's helped drive the trend is seltzer, soft seltzer, I guess you'd say, which is sparkling water. Another very big trend in America. But yeah, a lot of brands in the UK now popping up doing that, and that is 0 calorie. It's a 0 calorie soft drink.
Yeah, but it's a soft drink.
It's a soft drink.
No, it's not.
Yeah. But people's tastes now are evolving. They're not as wedded to sugar as much, I don't think. People are recognizing, sugar intake is generally a bad thing, and therefore and also with the sugar tax, obviously sugar contents come down in soft drinks. So people are kind of adapting a little bit to things.
I think there is a question that we want to ask every single one of the founders that has been with us on this journey. And it's really looking ahead, what's happening in our economy, our market. How, what do you think are the trends that are emerging, and what you think is really going to be important about a D2C brand moving forward?
Yeah, I don't like making predictions because I don't ever get them right.
I think I think for the first time ever,
especially these last few weeks,
even politicians and economists are getting it wrong. So
yeah, I know. I think obviously it's a tough time economically at the moment, and people are getting squeezed. Their wallets are getting squeezed. Discretionary spend is much lower than what it was. I think in our specific category of alcoholic drinks, it tends to be quite robust to recessions and difficult economic times. Interestingly, if you kind of look historically, although it is a luxury in many ways, people, it's kind of held up quite well in terms of spend. So, in the long run, it will endure, and people, are always going to want to kind of let themselves go, I think, and have a drink and enjoy themselves. But there is a long-term trend of a little bit more moderation coming into the market. So, the rise of non-alcoholic drinks, non-alcoholic beer and things like that is one indicator of that, and kind of lower sugar and lower calories is another, but they're quite different, but they're definitely both there. Yeah,
I just think that the non-alcoholic trend has been here for a long period of time.
Yeah,
maybe. Do you think that the sheer amount of brands addressing that segment?
There are a lot of brands.
Increased?
Yeah, there are a lot of brands. I think it's definitely growing. It's super competitive, but I think it can be detrimental having loads of brands in the category, but actually a lot of the time it creates excitement, because people are discovering new brands that, connect with them in a different way to something else. Someone who looks at a DRTY, for example, gets a certain feeling from that they look at a White Claw, which is one of our competitors, that might appeal to someone else completely. So it's exciting having lots of different brands, I think, to some degree.
Well, then going back to what makes you different than to other competitors, I think your branding and your marketing and social media activities is really, really cool. What have you found has worked in regards to attracting consumers, and what hasn't worked?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, thanks for saying that about the brand. Nice to hear.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, I think big thing for us is the name. I think is quite an important part of a brand. DRTY.
Where did that name?
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, we grapple with it a long time because if you think about the kind of credentials of hard seltzer, it's low in calorie, it's clean in taste, it's low sugar, it's refreshing. So we wanted to communicate clean in some way, but we didn't want to do it in a way that was talking about health and wellness, because obviously we don't feel that really that's the kind of hook. Drinking alcohol isn't really about health and wellness. Yeah. So we wanted to communicate that cleanliness, but also clean by nature. I guess clean by name, but dirty by nature. So actually Matty, my co-founder, he said, what about drink clean, live dirty? And we really like that because it communicated a drink that tastes clean. Yeah. But the attitude is dirty. It's about showing your real self and letting yourself go. Yeah. So the name, I think the name is important and evokes that emotional connection. And in terms of I guess the strategy of getting into it, a lot of it's about distribution. So making sure that you're available to buy in the right occasions. So we were talking about festivals before.
Yeah.
And it's all well and good knowing the brand, but if you can't buy it in that moment, then you're not going to attract consumers. So there's that. And then I think just in terms of your brand awareness, it's about being unique, different, and talking about the world in a way that's a bit different to how everyone else is.
Yeah.
So,
Have you done any like paid advertising? Yeah.
Yeah, so we do like D2C ads at the moment.
Yep.
Which is definitely a great way to build that direct connection with people.
And what platform has that worked the best?
We, in terms of the advertising?
Yeah, like Instagram.
We mainly focus on Instagram because we think it's where our audience probably spends most of their time. So. TikTok isn't, they don't really allow alcohol kind of advertising on there at the moment because it's quite a young demographic. So we focus on Instagram, a little bit of Google as well. And it does okay for us. It's changed a lot. I think that kind of, in terms of the economics involved with customer acquisition has changed. And in truth, for drinks, it's difficult because of the weight of the product, makes it quite hard to make it profitable. But it's a great way to recruit consumers for sure. And like I say, build those direct sort of connections. Yeah. I think anyway.
So what you're doing is really digital marketing or digital advertising, to be more precise, is really a way of introducing the customer to something new, and then they can see it in the supermarkets. And I know you've been very successful introducing your brand in quite a number of retailers. Yeah.
I mean, it does. Yeah, you're right. It plays that role. I think we have a diverse mix of selling channels. So as you're saying, we sell to supermarkets, we sell to festivals, we sell to bars, and we also sell online. And I think the difference between online is with all those other channels, there's a middleman, there's a supermarket, there's a retailer, there's a bar operator who, is in control of how, I guess, people buy your brand. Whereas with online direct to consumer, you can talk to them directly. And that helps because then, they've bought online. Then when they go into their Waitrose, they go, and that helps build those connections. Yeah.
I was just going to say, at what part then in your growth journey did you start wanting to sell in stores like Waitrose, Ocado, and then you're now selling? I mean, not now, but like you are selling on Amazon as well.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's interesting because I guess alcohol and drinks and that is quite traditional in terms of, you have to win in you really do need to win in the retailers and that physical environment. You can't, there aren't that many brands who've only built a D2C only proposition. There are a lot of brands, if you think about Brewdog in drinks, this is there, you look at Brewdog, for example, they have a really strong online offering, but they're also very successful in pubs, bars and shops. So we've always wanted to build that diversity. But interestingly, earlier on our journey, because we launched just before COVID, like 2 months before COVID, and basically for that whole first like 12, 18 months, because of that, most of our sales were online really. So we're kind of, initially we were very focused on that as a channel. I
can imagine that with the retailers, it would have been very difficult to get something in the supermarket, on the supermarket shelf.
Yeah.
How was that process for you?
So it's a long process in some ways. I think the top retailers in the UK, they are really innovative, and they do want to look at new products, but obviously they're very time poor and they've got like every new product shouting at them. So it just takes some time to kind of get through to those buyers and I guess if you're passionate about your brand, that kind of helps and shines through. And once that happens, then it's about convincing them of, I guess, the merits of your product and your brand and the commercials and we were lucky that we were able to do that. We're in a category that's like new and high growth, and people want to look at different propositions. So
that's a good place to be.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Long may it continue, hopefully. But
where do you see then like a majority of yourselves coming through, like online or in store, Amazon?
Yeah. So if we think about our sales mix, online is probably about 10% of our sales at the moment.
Yeah.
And then we probably have about 60% in physical like retail stores.
Yeah.
And then the remaining 30 is like third space, events, festivals, bars. We want to increase our share of online over the next couple of years quite a lot. But yeah, that's where it is at the moment. It was way higher. You know, when we started in the first 60 months, it would have been 60-70%, and it's come down a bit post.
I just think that, you know, during those 2020, 2021, it was really hard. Nobody was getting out of the house. So clearly everything we bought was in front of our screen or from our phones. Do you think that will, you know, the level of online demand, do you think that will ever return for your business?
I think there's a long-term trend, you know, of increasing penetration online, for sure. Because actually, when I was at Diageo, I spent some time in the e-commerce team there. So they had like a team set up to look at online sales. And there is a long-term trend towards people moving online, whether that be through direct sales, but also the retailers. Obviously, Tesco online, Asda online, etc.
Oh, absolutely.
There's increasing penetration. So, you know, whether we'll see in the short term returns to that level of demand during COVID, I don't know. But there is a long-term, I think, trend towards that as a channel, which is probably going to continue, to be honest. Especially as the digital generation gets older and
they start searching for alcohol online.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I think, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, it was a ridiculous couple of years, wasn't it, in terms of, you know, people's behaviour and what they were doing. I just can't. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I mean, touch wood, we're not going to get like another variant, and we're all going to
for another 100 years.
Yeah. So yeah.
So what's next then for Dirty? Do you have any upcoming?
Yeah, so we've got. We feel like we're just getting started, really, because we turned 3 at the end of this month.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the festival sector is, you know, one that we're very focused on. So music, events, and really like building our brand in that kind of area. So we've got a lot of exciting plans next year, because that kind of scene is, you know, last year was its first year kind of fully back to
festivals,
to life.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots going on there. And then, really it's just about continuing to make sure our product's right, improving the product mix with, you know, maybe some different variants, different flavours, different formats, different categories even.
How many different flavours do you have?
We actually have 3 that we've got on the market at the moment. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right above you.
Sorry. White citrus. We've got white citrus, raspberry rosé, and mango passion.
Lovely. Delicious.
Yeah, delicious.
They are really delicious.
I've
I've tried them. Yeah, they're amazing.
Oh, love it.
But we've got quite a lot of in development, so we'll look at that. So
yeah. Cool.
I know that many of the founders watching us, and most importantly listening to us, will want to know what are maybe the 3 things that you, if you were to start again another direct-to-consumer business, you wouldn't do.
Wouldn't do.
Yeah, you wouldn't do.
The mistakes you made.
Yes.
I think most people would say that there's a long old list.
Pick the top 3.
Yeah, what wouldn't we do? It's a really difficult question, because I think, I think, like, you know, there's a lot.
Or tips you have. Or tips you may have.
I think for me there's a couple of things I'd say, but I think your brand is so key, and I think getting really clear on what you want your brand to stand for and be in as concise way as possible, in a really clear, simple way. Take time thinking about that, because if you can get that really strong and powerful and genuinely something that kind of people identify with, that will protect your brand is your protection really against the market, your differentiator. So I'd say that. And take your time. I'd say what we did was we got going really quickly. So we kind of took the approach like, let's just do stuff and see if it works. But I think there's something to be said for that. But there's also something to be said for just pausing and kind of really understanding what you're trying to do. I'm kind of waffling a bit there, but
no, you're not. I think you're just speaking from your own experience.
The other thing I said D2C practically is really get some experts on it early, because you can, we probably messed around with working with kind of agencies and people who maybe weren't as expert as we should have done.
See, there was one element that you wouldn't do again.
So I would say, like, definitely, even if it costs a bit more, I think with D2C you really need to know what you're doing. So take the time, get the right people and right partners on board.
Because you started with 2, you and your co-founder. And then how long was it just you two until you?
Probably up until start of the year, actually. We kept it pretty lean. I mean, we've always worked with kind of agencies and outsourced stuff, But now we're a team of 4.
Start of this year?
Yeah, start of this year.
Yeah.
We just became a team of 4. We added a 3rd, and then we're going to add a 4th. And we'll probably become 5 next year at some point. So
and who are those other
mysterious characters? So we've got Bo, who, I mean, this is kind of Bo's our field sales exec.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out Bo. Honestly, he's unbelievable. He's kind of out there every day working with our retailers. On the street, in his dirty van. So that's Bo. Then we've got Orlando joining us in a couple of weeks now. So he's going to look after the festivals and events and the trade sector. And then we have a great agency called the Mind Collective. Shout out Mind Collective. Letty, Imogen, Rich, Ella. Probably missed one of them, but and they handle all our D2C and social, and they've been great. So. It's kind of a bigger extended team, but direct team, we've got 4.
Amazing.
Okay, cool. Well, it was really good to speak to you, Oli. You have an amazing growth journey, and you have an amazing business as well. I can't wait to see your products at other festivals in the future.
You're going to be on me for tickets, aren't you?
Yeah.
Ooh,
but
it's getting interesting.
I have some. But no, it's really good to speak to you. So thank you for coming.
No worries.
Thank you, Oli. It's been a pleasure.
Cut.